Welcome back, guys. I trust you've been staying safe. Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy, aka Puff Daddy, is in very hot, deep waters. This is because a suit has been filed against him by his former signee artist, Cassie, who also doubled as his ex-girlfriend or his girlfriend from 2007 up until 2018, where she then became his ex-girlfriend and recently got married. In this lawsuit, Cassie, also known as Cassandra Ventura, is putting across a lot of allegations which are really damning and puts P. Diddy on the ropes. P. Diddy has battled several suspicions and legal cases going as far back as in the days of Tupac and the notorious B.I.G., whose passings were some way somehow bringing suspicions on the reputation and name of P. Diddy, but he has seemed to be able to manage his way through all that. Now this music mogul is going to be faced with yet another battle. Can he beat it? Before we get into that, let's get into the actual details of the case. Now, Sean Combs, this producer and music mogul, has been in the industry for decades. He has been one of the most famous names in the hip-hop for decades, and he is currently being sued in federal court as at just this Thursday, 24 hours ago, by the R&B singer who was actually once signed to his label, like I said. In this suit, Cassie accuses P. Diddy of rape and of repeated physical abuse over about a decade. Again, in the suit, which was filed in the Federal District Court in Manhattan, Cassie, whose real name is Cassandra Ventura and had been a long romantic partner of Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy, indicated that not long after she met P. Diddy in 2005, where she was just 19 years old, P. Diddy put together and executed a pattern of control and seeming abuse that included plying her with drugs and sometimes getting physical with her, including sometimes forcing her to get intimate with male, what's the word to use? With male partners, if I should put it that way. And according to Cassie, after years in silence and darkness, she is now ready to speak out. Of course, as will be expected, in response to this, P. Diddy, through his lawyer, Ben Brafman, indicated that he vehemently denies all these offensive and outrageous allegations. Now, for the past 6 months, it is being alleged that P. Diddy has been subjected to Ms. Ventura's persistent demand of $30 million under the threat of writing a damaging book about their relationship, which was unequivocally rejected as blatant blackmail. Technically, I understand why they would say it's a blackmail, because if you come to me and say that, okay, pay me $30 million so I'm going to write a very damaging book about our past relationship, obviously it seems like blackmail. But then again, it could seem like something else depending on what the truth about what the person is going to write is. So it is not borderline blackmail, but it could be interpreted as such depending on where someone stands. Now, despite Cassie actually having withdrawn her initial threat, she now has resorted to filing a lawsuit which is riddled with baseless, outrageous lies, aiming to tarnish P. Diddy's reputation and seeking a payday. This was what P. Diddy's lawyer concluded by saying. Now, it didn't end there, because Cassie's lawyer would also come back to this. Now, her lawyer's name is Douglas Wigdall, and he said that parties have spoken face to face, but that the suit has still been filed, and that Mr. Combs offered Ms. Ventura 8 figures to silence her and prevent the filing of this lawsuit. But then, as will be expected, Cassie rejected it. So, they are now having to seek their day in court depending on how things play out after the suit. Ms. Ventura's case is the latest in a series of sexual assault civil suits filed against these prominent men in the music industry. Just to mention a few, if you recollect, some of these men, like Steven Tyler of Aerosmith, the executive Ellie Reed, and Neil Portnow, the former head of the organization behind the Grammy Awards, these are just some few examples of seemingly powerful men being accused of not treating some ladies in their life right. And sometimes it's as if they have a power edge over them and they are using it to strong arm them into things that they may allegedly not have wanted to do. But in the eyes of the law, everybody is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Although some of these accusations may be damning and might rub off negatively on the reputation of some of these people, if you can't prove it in court, it can stick. And in some instances, they could come back and countersue. So I hope that Cassie has solid evidence of what she's saying, and maybe she could be successful in court, because sometimes going up against such powerful people can be an uphill battle. Mr. Combs is actually 54 years now. Yeah, in case you didn't know, P. Diddy is 54 years now, as of 2023 November. And he founded the Bad Boy record label in 1993 and became one of the primary figures in the commercialization of hip-hop, working with stars like the Notorious B.I.G. and Mary J. Blige. His net worth has been estimated as high as $1 billion, and as of last year 2022, Forbes magazine actually calculated Mr. Combs' annual earnings at $90 million and attributed that amount largely to his former partnership in a liquor brand called Ciroc that is currently owned by the spirits giant Diageo. Mr. Combs, who also in his career has variously been known as Puff Daddy, Diddy, and now, as of 2023, he says he's Love or Brother Love, might actually be the most famous music executive of his generation. But in this suit, it depicts P. Diddy as a violent person who, beyond repeatedly physically dominating Miss Ventura, asked her to carry his sidearm or his gun in her purse, and the suit suggests he was responsible for blowing up the car of a rival suitor. In one incident, the suit says Mr. Combs dangled a friend of Miss Ventura's over a 17th floor hotel balcony. Now, if you remember this, Suge Knight is also alleged to have done the same thing to Vanilla Ice for him to sign a contract, although Vanilla Ice refutes this actually happened. But P. Diddy and Suge Knight, they come from the same generation. Suge Knight was running Def Jam and P. Diddy was running Bad Boy. They were actually ops in a way at a point in time in their various music careers. So that leaves a question mark. Could this be an old school sort of convincing tactic that these old school G's would pull up if the formal conversation is not working? Well, as it stands now, like I said, it's just an accusation. Now, in naming additional defendants, the court papers assert that others who worked with P. Diddy had helped him to control Cassie, at times by even resorting to threatening her with retribution, like suppressing her music if she did not obey his instructions or by helping to conceal his behavior. The suit also names P. Diddy and a number of his associated companies as defendants, seeking unspecified damages. According to Cassie, aka Cassandra Ventura, she was actually swept into Mr. Combs' jet-set lifestyle not long after meeting him and signing with his Bad Boy record label. This record label actually went on to release her debut album in 2006. So it goes on and on to talk about the fact that since that point, P. Diddy and his executive record labels have been trying to dominate Cassie and have gotten her to engage in all sorts of crazy stuff, which has since affected her in several ways. Now, in one of the incidents described in the court papers, Cassie actually says that in early 2012, Mr. Combs grew so angry about her dating the rapper Kid Cudi that he said he would blow up the rapper's car. Around that time, the suit says, Kid Cudi's car exploded in his driveway. Now, through a spokeswoman, Kid Cudi confirmed Ms. Ventura's account that he had a car that exploded. He said that that is all true. Now, if this is actually true, then maybe there could be some truth to what Cassie is putting out in the suit. And if that is also going to happen, then P. Diddy might just be in a tight corner on this one. Like I said before, he has faced down a lot of cases and he seems to have seemingly come out unscathed, but this one might be difficult for him to beat because there are other evidences that seems to might be stacked against him depending on what Cassie Ventura has up her sleeve as her ace, because I don't think she would come out with this suit without having any smoking guns to back them up. And already you have people like Kid Cudi also coming in to collaborate some of the things that she's saying. So it is becoming to look like P. Diddy might be going down, because don't forget there is also the case of Tupac's shooting, in which now Keffe D has been arrested and is actually set to go on trial. And there's also links of Keffe D being linked to Puffy Diddy or P. Diddy with regards to that same incident. And now here comes Cassie. If at least one of these cases stick, P. Diddy might be in a position to actually do some jail time if he's found guilty. Because even taking the suit that has been leveled against him by Cassie alone, the implications are damning if he's found guilty. And he would have to do some jail time, I suspect. Then, looking at the case of Keffe D, if he is also found guilty as a conspirator, he is also as guilty as the person who pulled the trigger on Tupac. So P. Diddy, I don't think is sleeping well at night these days, because he has a lot of odds stacked up against him in terms of legal battles and things that could unfold. Is he going to beat it this time again? Honestly, I don't think so. At least of these two cases that I know of, I'm sure one would stick. Or maybe he could just prove that he isn't the longest reigning music executive for nothing, because the hip-hop music scene is a cutthroat scene, and you don't stay this long in that dominant position in that industry without also learning some few tricks of the game. But then, this is the law we are talking about. This is not hip-hop. This is the law. And in the law, everything comes to submit to it. So, I'm following this case to see how it goes. If it turns out they settle out of court, personally, I wouldn't be that excited because I want to see how this goes. But if they go to court, I'm going to be excited so much about this, because I think that all these things need to be brought out. Don't forget, there are other women or other previous women in P. Diddy's lives who also didn't have much great things to say about him. That is not to condemn that he's guilty or not, but that is just to say it seems there's a pattern. Then again, that also doesn't suggest him being actually guilty of anything. But we leave that to the courts and the investigators to get into this, and we see how it turns out. Until then, subscribe to the channel if you are yet to do so. Turn on the post notification. Leave your comments in the comment section. Help us hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of this year. I'll catch you in the next one.